Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rethinking Addiction podcast. This is episode 16. Dr.
Wow.
Terry, we have gone through 16 episodes. We are super excited about this episode. We have a special guest with us today. So, Dr. Terry, go ahead and introduce this amazing human and what the theme of the topic is today.
I sure will. This is Yvonne Rice, and she has been to our program as well as she's shared all over, very moving about her experience with family. And it is a family disease. We know that. And we do offer that here at Cipriano's, and most of your other places now incorporate that family part. I think we try to educate the family a little bit too, because a lot of times we have to understand it's not based on morality or willpower. It is actually addiction is a behavioral emotional response, but family seems to get the brunt of that and sometimes. Um, and I think it sounds better coming from someone that's after experienced all that. We've experienced this side of it, but you've actually experienced the other side of it, Yvonne. And really just wanted you to kind of share some of the things that you have learned about yourself, about how addiction affected your own marriage or other children, what kind of impact did it have on your family? And just to give us an idea, and then we'll talk about a few other things too. But thank you so much for being here, Yvonne. So if you want to tell us how you got into this family thing.
Yes, yeah. Well, I was really blessed. Even though my biological family, right, like my family of origin, didn't have addiction, we still had addiction from like my grandfather was an alcoholic. I don't know about my dad's side of the family. My dad had me when he was 45, and I was from my mom had been married several times. So anyways, I hate to always tell her story, right? But my story is I really did not know anything about addiction. I mean, I just didn't. I knew in college I drank too much, and I had a come into Jesus moment, and I didn't drink again. And so I really didn't understand. When I met my husband, the first date he took me on was to the city rescue mission. I thought, oh my gosh, can he not afford dinner? Like, do I need to pay for dinner? Like, is this how this is going to be? And he said, no, I want you to hear my story. And his story was one of great sadness of his mom and dad both being an alcoholic, and their lives ended very young because of their disease and other people in their family. He had a brother whose life was cut short. And so my husband, well, first of all, Terry, y'all have to get this. As he's telling the story, I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to fix him. I'm going to be his mama. So I was kind of just made for this, right? Like made to be a codependent. So it was just terrible. So I just, and then, shortly after he's like, will you marry me? I'm like, of course I'll marry you. And, but we just really, to be honest, we thought addiction was a moral issue. You were acting up, you were rebelling against God, against everyone. And so even though there is some truth to that, that is really not what all it is. And so when our son started struggling, and listen, he grew up in a very conservative Christian home. We did not have alcohol in our home. The worst thing we had was NyQuil. And when I found out it had stuff in it, I threw it out. I mean, we weren't going to have that stuff. So when it happened to us, it it just busted everything wide open, because wait a minute, this is going against what I believe about God, right? Like what I believe about theology, what I believe about church and all this, like. And I will tell you, I mean, there are some good things that have come out of me being busted up in that area. I was extremely judgmental before. I mean, really, if your kids were acting up, you were probably doing something or not doing something. That is so not true. I mean, now I know. I have sat with other moms in a hospital, emergency room, who were there probably for the same reason I was there, and they looked way different than me. But yet now I can put my hand across the aisle and say, I get it. I get it. And I'm so sorry that we're going through this, and love on people instead of sitting there going, well, obviously you don't look much different from him. So that's probably why that's going on. Because that was the old Yvonne. I hate to say it, but that was how I was. And so this has totally wrecked my life. I'm think differently. I love differently. I'm not as codependent, but I'm still codependent. I still struggle. I go to Al-Anon, and I need to probably go to Al-Anon more. And yeah, so but addiction started with my son. The first thing we ever saw, he was 9 years old. He was given a medication for coughing, for severe asthma coughing, and it had caffeine, codeine in it, and he hated the taste of it. And he came back about 45 minutes after he had it and said, "Mama, can I have some more of that?" And I said, "Why would you want more? It tastes nasty." And he said, "Oh, but it makes my brain feel oh so good." And I remember thinking, I don't relate to that because codeine doesn't make me feel good. Hydrocodone doesn't make me feel good. Any painkillers I've ever had do not make me feel good. Even alcohol didn't make me feel good like what he's talking about. It didn't make my brain feel good. And so I remember thinking, I kind of better keep that in my head. Again, I hadn't really had any, experience with addiction yet. And then at 14 was when it really came out. And we just couldn't believe it. And then we were like, well, this is just maybe a season, maybe a little rebellion in a teenager. And so, we did what any good Christian parents would do. We're like, okay, you're on restriction. Like that's gonna stop him. He went right out that bedroom window. But the other interesting thing is our son wasn't extremely rebellious as far as he wasn't trying to go out and party with people. He was a private user. He was using by himself. And so he went to his first treatment center at 15 years old. And I remember bawling as I dropped him off. We were also a homeschool family. And we homeschooled. We went to church Sunday morning, Sunday night, Tuesday, Wednesday. We did all the things. He was around all the right people, y'all. This is how I know it's a brain driven disease. And I know it because his brain was driving him. And yet, because people were saying, oh, you just got to see who he's hanging out with. I said, he's hanging out with us. We're the people he's hanging out with. Come on. It's not who he's hanging out with. And even to this day, I have people who want to argue with me about, is it really a disease? And we know it is. And I will tell you, I was talking to someone the other day. Unfortunately, we've seen a lot of adult children lose their life in this disease, as so have y'all. And I was talking to someone the other day, and they said, do you ever feel like you wish it was something different, like cancer? Because at least for cancer, people will bring over a casserole, they'll sit and talk to you. They feel bad when your kid's in the hospital for something like that, but not when it's addiction. And I said, you're right. And I said, to come to think of it, I would take cancer over this. I hate to say that. I hate to say it, but it's true because we have lost friends over this. People don't understand. We've lost, my daughter, when she was little, got uninvited to a birthday party when people found out that her brother was in a treatment center. We did try to keep it quiet. We were really hoping this was very short, like it's not going to, but it wasn't short. And my son ended up in, I can't even tell you how many treatment centers. He's been in the hospital over 60, 70 times. We've been going through this since 2000 and maybe 11. I'm not sure. I can't remember. I know it's since he was 14 and he's 32. And he's been Narcaned over 60 times. It's excessive. It's very excessive. And there was even a time, I'm just going to tell you a quick story since I just keep talking. I'll just keep talking. I had a few, just not long ago, maybe, 2 years ago or so, I was on my way to church and my husband was home. He had had a back injury. And my son actually has a baby girl now, and we have custody of her. And she was in the little car seat, and she's got her struggles from being born the way she was born. And I was just crying out to God. I think the baby was crying. I was crying. And I just thought, could it really get any worse? And I said, God, why don't you just take him? Why? Just take him. At least then I know he's okay. I don't have to wonder where he's at, what dumpster he's behind. I don't have to worry, what woods he's in, right? Because my son's lived on the streets for his disease, for his drug. And Oh, I never thought I would have this in my life. Never, never, never. And so I was wrestling with God. I don't know if you've ever wrestled with God, but there's a wrestling. I really should have gotten out of my car and wrestled. And anyways, I got to church, came back home, and I get a call, and I recognize now from hospitals, and it was a emergency room doctor from Shands Hospital, UF, and she said, your son is here. He's okay, but I need to let you know he's been intubated. And, he was really not well, fighting for his life. And, we had to do that. We just now figured out who he is so we can reach out. But he had been intubated that time for several hours. And I said, can I ask you what time you did that? Because I'm thinking in my head, I was begging God to take him this morning. What parent begs God to take their children? I mean, it doesn't even seem right. But, anyways, she said it was at 9 o'clock this morning. That's when I was begging God. And God's like, no, Yvonne, not only am I not going to take him, I could take him right now. I'm going to save him. I'm going to let a doctor intervene and save his life again. And, I don't know God's plan or purpose for my boy, but I know that he uses it in my life. It's not fun. None of this has been fun. I don't get to say, oh, yeah, he's graduated from this college and we're doing this or that. There's nothing normal. There's nothing normal about this. That's what's so hard. And I thank God for you guys that families have a place where we can understand and get this training and this education and the encouragement, the empathy that we need, because it's a family disease. It makes us all sick. There's times I've been just as sick as him. There's times I haven't wanted to be here because of his disease. That's tough, and my husband was like, we can't let his problem take over our life. And I thought, really? How do we not? How do we not? But there's times, Terry, you get it, Michael, you get it, that we were fighting for his life more than he was. And so
Mhm.
that's our story.
What do you think the support then that you got from Al-Anon has helped you so much, right? Because you really had to work on
Absolutely.
you, you said. Um,
Absolutely. I love the 12 steps. First of all, I just love the 12 steps. And I would go to open AA meetings. I mean, the 12 steps is just a wonderful way to live your life. Even if no matter what someone's faith is, biblically, it's very biblical. That's what I love about it. And so when I am working those steps and I'm taking an inventory of my
mm,
life, you know, I'm in a much better mind space. And the Bible, not to get too, but the Bible says to be sober minded. I mean, it tells us to be sober minded. Yet there's times I was drunk on him. I was drunk on my son's situation. I wasn't sober minded. And I'll have to tell y'all how I found out about Al Anon. So, first of all, Al Anon, that's just weird. Like, what is that, Al Anon? You know what I mean? You almost just want someone to say it's a families dealing with addiction, but they don't say that. It's Al Anon. So I was dropping my son off. He had had a horrible incident happen. Very bad things happen when you're out on the streets and you're doing crazy stuff. And I dropped him off at a meeting and I was walking away. And there's this man that came running after me. I was thinking, oh my gosh, what is he trying to do? Give me his phone number. Really, like I'm trying to impress myself. But he said, ma'am, he said, can I just stop you for a minute? He said, and he said my son's name. He said, he looks really good. And I know y'all have had a really bad day. And it's interesting because he looks really good and you don't. And I was like, oh. And what it was, Michael, y'all don't know this about me, but I have low blood sugar and I was having terribly low blood sugar. My face was extremely white at that time. And so I had not eaten, but he had eaten and he had taken a shower and he had been, anyways. And so he said, have you ever heard of Al Anon? You need to go to Al Anon. It's like AA, but for the families. And I was like, okay, thank you. And I was like, what little jerk think he's going to come tell me what to do? Anyways, so I drove off and I looked it up and I didn't even know how to spell it. And then I went to my first meeting and I just couldn't believe it. They were talking my language. They got it, but yet several of them seemed healthy healthy. They seemed strong, no matter if their loved one was using or not. And I thought, God, I want that. It is attraction, right? Because I want some of that. And then for years, I just thought that man was an angel. I really did. I just said, there, I've never seen him again. And then I ended up running a support group just through a church, just because a lot of families who wouldn't come to Al-Anon. So I ran a support group through a church, and I called a guy. I don't even know how I got this guy's number. And I just said, hey, would you come tell us your story? Because this one man had a really good story. You know, the really good ones, like where they went to prison and, you know, you need a prison story, right? Like they needed a good one. And, he had a good one. And so he said, hey, I'll bring two of my friends and they can tell their stories too. And I said, absolutely, because we had quite a time and he didn't want to take up too much time. He brought that guy. I
Oh
flipped
my.
out. I flipped out. I said, oh my gosh, y'all, I acted like a fool. I started crying, hugging him. And he
Wow.
goes, I'm so sorry, I don't remember you. I said, well, have you had a relapse? Because maybe that's why you don't remember me. But he didn't even remember it. And then he goes, well, wait a minute, wait a minute. I kind of do. I kind of do. And I thought, how neat. I mean, something that has changed my life. He didn't even
Mhm.
remember, you know? And so, yeah, so that guy is real and he's done very well. He actually stayed sober. So that
Wow.
was great.
Wow.
Well, I will share
Wow.
with you. First of all, Yvonne, okay, this is my first time hearing your story. We don't even want to ask you questions.
Mm-mm.
That was a
You've answered
magnificent,
them.
powerful testimony. I
Yes.
do want to share with you, first of all, thank you for sharing it. It takes courage.
Yes.
Number two, it doesn't have power over you anymore because you're sharing it.
Amen.
Number three, I want to tell you what's really cool about Al-Anon, because I didn't know what it was either.
Mhm.
And so it's really cool because back in the day, when Bill and his guys were meeting anonymously in the basement, well, the women had to be somewhere because they had to drop these drunkards off. And so the women were sitting in a little circle going, I think we need help. So,
Yes.
so that's the beginning of Al-Anon, is that these magnificent women were like, gosh, we want our husbands to be better, but I think we're getting sick because of them.
Mhm.
So the
Yes.
beauty of Al-Anon. Now, the beautiful thing about Cipriano and Johnson Counseling too is we do incorporate the family. The addiction is a family disease, which you
Yeah.
magnificently shared. I mean, I got all emotional listening to your story. It
Me
is
too.
great. And I love when you said, I want a good prison story. Well, guess what? Some families are in a prison. They just don't have the
That's right.
bars. They just don't have the
Right.
bars. And so thank
Right.
you so much
Yes.
for taking the time to share that. I don't even want to, Dr. Terry, if it's okay with you, we should
I
let that
wasn't, I was
sit.
going to say the same thing you said.
Yes, we
That
should let that
the
sit. I
new
am a
new
geek.
thing.
I love TED Talks. I don't know if you've ever heard of
Mhm.
TED, but it's technology, education, and design. But anyway, they say the best TED Talk is 15 minutes. And Yvonne, you nailed it.
You
So thank
nailed it.
you so much for sharing your magnificent
Yeah.
spirit. And thank you for sharing your son's story as well as your family. But thank you so much. Next
Thank you.
week, we
I
will.
know we'll want to have her back again,
Oh,
so I'll
absolutely.
definitely get in touch with
I
you.
feel bad for
Okay.
anybody that comes on next. Now you've ruined it for all the future guests.
You
But anyway,
were
Yvonne, it's been a
excellent.
blessing. Thank you
Excellent.
so
Thank
much for
you.
being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you.
Take
I'll
care,
be in
everyone.
touch. Thanks
Bye bye.
Okay.
again, hon.
Okay.